All right, so hello everyone. So what we're doing in this one, I'm going to show you how we do a simple calculator. I've created a new project. We called it Simple App. And then if you don't know how to do that, you just click on New, and then you select Project. New project. And then you can select the name of the project. We selected an empty activity. And then you click on Next, and you give it a name, and then you click on Finish, okay? So we already created that project. We called it Simple Calc. And then we have, we went to the text, we went to the activity underscore main XML. This is your design, your activities. And we went to the, we have the Java program. So those by default will open.
دكتور
Yeah.
التكست فيو الأول والثاني خليتها نمبر.
لا no, this is still text view. I just made them, that's what I was going to explain to you. So we selected the text view from here, and I just dragged plain text here. So I have plain text, and this one is a text view, all right? And then we
متى نستعمل النمبر اللي هو في التكست فيو في كلمة.
Just give me a minute. Let me finish this example and I'll show you, okay?
Okay.
So and then you have the buttons, and then we added a button in here. And I'll explain to you the difference in a minute, okay? So this is all what we have. Let's just set the properties first and the layout for those widgets, okay? So I have a plain text, text view, and a button. Text view, if you're familiar with label, this is similar to labels, all right? So now when I go to the, select one of them, and I want to set the constraint for that button, for that text view. I want to set the constraint for that button. You have to have at least two constraints so it knows where it positions itself on the activity or on the screen. And I'm going to set the constraint for this one. And I'm going to set the constraint for this one. Constraints determine the layout of your screen. The other thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to change the attributes of these widgets. The first thing I want to do is I want to change this to the names of these, the IDs of all these objects. So instead of in this one here, in the attributes we have ID, and that's important. So I'm going to say txt, edit text, underscore number 1, all right? And you get this warning, says, do you want to update, you change the name of this, do you want to update the reference everywhere? Yes, say yes, okay. And then we're going to change the second one, edt underscore and 2, yeah.
كلهم text view صح؟
عفوا؟
كلهم text view صح؟
Yes, no, not text view. This one plain text, this is a plain text, and this is text view. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the last one is my text view. I'm going to call this txt text view underscore result. Right? Then you hit enter. Now we changed. Yes.
صار عندي لك سؤال. شو الفرق بين plain text وبين text view?
Plain text is a label for output only. Oh, عفوا. A plain text, no, so the text view is for output only. Plain text if you want to enter some values.
هذا حق الانبوت وهذا حق الاوتبوت.
Right, this is for output. The text view is for output or labels. This one is for input. Okay. Then you have this button. I'm going to change this. The ID of this one is going to say btn add. All right. And then you click on enter. Now we're going to change the text attribute for all of them. So the text attribute for this guy is right now, it says name. But this is the default value. This is when you display this on the screen, this is what will appear. but we don't want that. So I'm going to say it's empty, but I want to put something in the hint. The hint will allow me to tell the users what to enter. It's kind of like a label on the form, a label next to the text field. So you can say enter number 1 and 1, right? And that will appear in there, okay? Then you do the same thing for the other one. You delete the text value, and then hint, you can say enter number 2. Now the text view, right now the text is text view. I'm going to say that here result, okay? So the result goes here, right? Or make it 0 for now, all right? So it'll appear 0. Now, obviously, you can change the appearance of these texts, the styles of these things. You can click on these here, and then you can change the styles of them. You can change the text appearance down below. So you can say the text appearance. You can select different displays of, you want it large, small, medium. You can change all of that for all of them. All right. Now we have left with the button, and the button, it says. Button. I'm going to put the plus sign instead. And then if you want to make the text large, you can go in here and say make it large. Okay. So far so good.
Yes.
So now I've changed the view, I've changed the activity and set up all the widgets attributes. Now we need to go to the Java class that is associated or linked to this activity. So I have main activity is the class associated with this one, all right? So when I go to here, I need reference, first of all, if I want to change, access, do anything with those widgets on the screens, on this activity, then I need a reference for them in the text field, in the Java class, in the main activity. What does that mean? For example, if I want to get the value of this, I have to have a reference for it in my Java class. If I want to get the value of this, the same way. If I want to set the value of this, same way. If I want to do any action for that button here, I need to also get reference to it in my Java class. Now, I'm going to show you an easier way. Now, the labs that you have are okay. You can follow those labs and you're responsible for them. But I'm going to show you a much easier way to deal with these buttons, all right? So if I go to the main Java class, we have how many things that we have on the screen? We have at least 3 that I need reference to. Private. The first one is what? What's the first one?
Edit text.
Edit text. So I have 2 edit texts, right? And then I'm going to see txt and 1, for example. And I have private, edit text, txt, and 2. And then I have private. The last one is text view. And then this one, text to view result, right? Now, automatically, when you do this, in the import, it will add those, the reference to those widgets in your class. If it doesn't happen, then you will have to add those yourself. So because I'm using edit text to view, it'll say import Android, iOS, OS bundle, that's for the activity, but this is the widget edit text, widget text to view. Those were not there before, but when I typed this, it automatically added them. All right, so that's the first thing. Now what we're gonna do next. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new public method function. So how do we do that? I'm gonna say public void, and I'm going to call this method add. This method receives This is different than your labs, by the way, but that's okay. So either one is fine. View, and I'm gonna call it, but notice when I type this in, watch what's gonna happen. When I say type view and put space, do you see when I point to it, what does it say? It says hit the Alt and the Enter, and then it will include the reference to this view. All right, so if I hit on my computer Alt Enter, and then it says import class, now it added this view class for me. All right, and then I'm going to call the parameter name is actually small view. Sorry. So now what does that do? Now I've created an additional function. It's outside that function, but it belongs to the class. And this function name or method name is called add, and it has to be the same way. It has to have the same signature. That means what? It has to be public, it has to be void, and it has to receive a view as a parameter, right? Why did I do this? Now watch what happens. If I go to the main activity again, and make sure that we save this. I saved it. If I go to the main activity again, I have a button here, right? One of the attributes in this button, do you see this one's called onClick? Now, if I click on that, notice that add function appears here. So now, from now on, when I click on this, it will actually call this function that I have here. So in the previous one, we used to do, we get reference to the button, and then we add actual listener or onClick listener on that button, and then we do the code that way. This is an easier way, and then you do it all through the interface. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So what do we?
Doctor, the same idea when we doing the lab 2. My button dot set. Click on changes. Huh?
Same, it's the same thing, but this is a shorter cut. Yeah,
this short.
Yeah, this is the same way. This both are the same way, but here you're using the interface to do that for you, the Android Studio to do that part for you. Okay.
Okay.
But you can do either one. If you feel comfortable with that one, the onClick listener, you can do it that way. All right. So now what happens in here? What you can do in here, you can say, okay, I want to get reference to those text fields, convert the numbers, and then add them together and display it in the result, right? So I got these text field here. You could do that in here, or you could do it in here. It's up to you how you want to do it. So you can say txt1, that's the first one, equal what? We're going to cast it to make sure it is edit text to what? And then we can say here, we can say find ID by find the view by ID. And then I need to put R, the ID, and then the name of the field that I want. Now I have txt. I have, sorry, txt, what did we call it? Edit, sorry, edit text and 1, edit text and 2. So I want to get the first one. And then I'm going to get the second one. And then change the reference to and2. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to get the result as well. All right, txt result equal, I called it, you can call it whatever, but I call it here txt result. Okay, so I'm going to say this one is text view. And then I'm going to put find view by ID, r.id, text to view result, right? So now I got the 3 references. In the past, you did this in here, but I'm doing it in this function. So every time I click on this button, I get those ones. If you don't want to do this over and over again, every time you want to repeat it, you can just copy those guys, remove them from here, and do it only the first time. So this execute only the first time, so you will have them in here. So either way you want to do it. For performance reasons, probably this would be faster, all right? So you don't need to get reference all the time to it. So when you load the screen, you load the activity, you get references to all these fields. Now in the click button, the add, I'll do it in 2 steps so you don't get confused. First, I want to say string and 1 equal and 1 equal what? Equal txt 1 dot get text, then to string. So that will give you the string value that you enter in the first text edit text. Then you do the same thing for the other one. String txt and 2, txt and 2, and then get the result. So now I got my result. Now I got my 2 input fields. Now in here, what do? I need to convert those one, whether to integer or float or whatever. So I'm going to convert them to integer. Now again, you could have done this in 1 step. I could have put, you know, this part here, I could have actually wrapped it around a function, which is convert them to integer. But I'm doing it for simplicity, only for explanation purposes, all right? So in here, the next step, because they are numbers, you need to change them into numbers. So I'm gonna say int and 1 equal integer class dot parse int, and then you pass to it a string value that you wanted to convert. In this case, it's strn1. So now you try to convert the first variable into an integer. Now, typically, if you want to make your application robust, if it is a field that accepts other than numbers, you want to make sure that you wrap around this, you put a try and catch around this, so you your application doesn't crash, okay? Then you do the same thing for the other one. So command copy, command B, and then you put N2, and this is N2. So I converted the numbers from text to, and converted those variables from text to numbers. The next thing I'm going to do is that int result r equal N1 plus N2, right? And then the last part is that I just simply display the result. I got reference to the result here. So all I need to do is that txt text to view result dot set text, right? And then what I'm going to say, result equal, and then plus, I'm gonna put R, all right? So the text to view, we set the value to whatever the calculation of those 2 numbers, all right? Now, let's see if it works. It should work, barring any surprises. So I'm going to run the application, but I have this Zoom thing in my way. So I'm gonna run the application. And I am going to show the activity. And this is what we have. And my screen is a mess. Sorry, guys. So now if I enter 3, notice, okay, somebody asked me about the keyboard, right? if I enter 3 here, notice when I type in, what kind of keyboard is showing? It's showing text values, you know, so showing letters and numbers. If you want to convert it to numbers, if you do this, then only numbers shows up. And then I can do the same thing here. Okay. And then if I click on the plus, and then the result is 6. All right. So that's the simple calculator. Now, if you want to do the other buttons, you do the same thing. You go to the Android Studio. You will create other functions. You will create add, subtract, divide, blah, 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 all of them. And then you go to the main activity. In the main activity, and then you add those buttons here, and then you select the function that you want to execute from here. That's the difference between this method and the other one, that where you get a reference for each button and add action listener for every button. All right. Any question on this before I show you the last part?
I'm trying to see. Wait, let me check.
دكتور اقدر اشوف الكود بس برجع الكود.
Yeah. Let me show you the last part here. Somebody asked me, one of you asked me, what is the difference between plain text and these ones? Those are just your input types. For example, if you want to be able to enter numbers only, you would select this type of text field. If you want to enter only decimal numbers, numbers with decimal for calculator, this would make sense to use. I'm just going to add it here, and I'll show you. I'm not going to write the code because the code is the same. And then I'm going, you can do, you can say edit text decimal number, right? Okay. And then you set the layouts type. Now, when I run this, you'll notice this zoom menu, I hate it. Just keep popping up everywhere. You'll notice that we have a text field here. Now, if I click here, what kind of keyboard did you get? It's not the same keyboard as this one. It's just the number pads. Because I said it's decimal, it would include in it the comma, and it will include in it the period. Now, the nice thing about this, remember when I told you in the code when we did this, if I select this, if I enter a text in here, and I try to do this code, this part here, parsing into integer, if I enter letters, your application will crash. Let me just show you, and I'll show you how that works. So for example, if I entered here A, if I entered here B, and then I hit the plus, what happened? It actually worked. Where did it get A and B? I have no idea. In the iOS environment, this will crash. In other systems, it would have crashed. Okay. No, this is a different screen. It actually crashed. This is not the screen. I was going to say, what the heck? That doesn't make sense. But if I look at my terminal here, or I look at the run, you will see that it actually got an exception and your application crashed. So it says here, the exception saying it's on the click listener. At the end, you will see the error. The error says, okay, your language integer parse end has crashed. It received an exception. So that's the difference. If you want to protect yourself properly, you will have to put some validation. You will put these in a try and catch, and if something fails, then you display it to the user, and then you don't do the calculation. Okay, maybe down the road I'll show you how to do that. But if you know Java, this should be an easy task for you to do. Okay. Otherwise, you just restrict the keyboard, like, and that's what we did with those activity. I said this one, I'm gonna only allow decimal numbers to be entered. So the user don't have the option to enter invalid value. Is that clear?
Yes.
So that's the end of that first exercise. So what I want from you to continue what we did, all right? Continue the, add those 4 buttons, 3 other buttons, the division, the multiplications, and the subtractions, and do the calculation. It should be a simple task. All you have to do, copy this and paste it, and then just change the operation, okay? All right, and this is the end of this lecture. And the next one, I'm gonna show you how we do the multiple, or this example, I'm gonna show you how we do the 2-screen app, all right?
Okay.